The Galactic Military Academy stood like a crystal spire against the purple sky of Kepler 442b, its translucent walls reflecting the light of 3 distant suns. Inside the main combat training facility, the air hummed with nervous energy as cadets from dozens of species gathered around the central sparring arena. Marcus Chen adjusted his standard-issue training uniform, feeling the curious stares of his alien classmates. At 22 Earth years old, he was one of only 3 humans in the entire academy. The others had already graduated or transferred out, unable to handle the brutal training regimen designed for species with natural advantages like enhanced strength, speed, or telepathic abilities. The training hall buzzed with excited chatter in dozens of languages. Towering Krathari warriors with their 4 arms and chitinous exoskeletons discussed battle techniques in their clicking tongue. Sleek Vorthak assassins, their snake-like bodies coiled in perfect balance, whispered tactical assessments through their translator implants. Even the peaceful Xantharians, despite their flower-like appearance, possessed natural toxins that could paralyze opponents instantly. "Attention, cadets!" boomed Instructor Vex Thule, his massive Draknari frame casting a shadow across the arena floor. His reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Today we demonstrate close-quarters combat effectiveness. Real combat, not the simulation exercises you've grown comfortable with." A nervous murmur rippled through the crowd. Simulation training was one thing, but actual combat demonstrations meant real injuries, real pain. The Academy's medical bay could heal most wounds within hours, but that didn't make the experience less terrifying. "Each species has evolved unique advantages," Vex Thule continued, pacing around the arena with predatory grace. His clawed feet clicked against the reinforced metal floor with each step. "The Krathari possess 4 appendages and natural armor. The Vorthak have lightning reflexes and venomous bites. The Xantharians can release paralytic spores at will." Marcus noticed several of his classmates straightening with pride as their species' advantages were mentioned. He remained silent, knowing what was coming next. "Humans," Vex Thule's yellow eyes fixed on Marcus, "appear to have no natural advantages. No claws, no venom, no armor, no enhanced senses. They are soft, slow, and weak by galactic standards." The instructor's words weren't meant to be cruel. They were simply stating biological facts that every cadet learned in their xenobiology classes. Humans ranked near the bottom of the Galactic Species Index for physical capabilities. Their only notable traits were unusual endurance and problem-solving abilities, neither of which seemed particularly useful in direct combat. "Today we will demonstrate why the Galactic Council initially hesitated to admit humans into military service," Vex Thule announced. "Cadet Chen, please step forward." Marcus felt his heart rate increase as he walked into the arena. The reinforced floor was designed to withstand the full force of a Draknari warrior's charge or a Krathari's 4-armed assault. Overhead, force field generators hummed quietly, ready to contain any explosive attacks. "Choose your opponent," Vex Thule instructed, gesturing toward the gathered cadets. Marcus scanned the crowd. There was Zektar, a Krathari whose 4 arms could each bench press a small vehicle. Lin, a Vorthak whose reflexes were fast enough to catch plasma bolts mid-flight. Bloom of Morning Frost, a Xantharian whose toxic spores could drop a charging Terran rhino in seconds. "Any opponent?" Marcus asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Within reason," Vex Thule replied. "Choose someone from your year group." Marcus's eyes settled on Torvik Ironshield, a massive Ursian warrior. The bear-like alien stood nearly 3 meters tall and weighed close to 400 kilograms of solid muscle and bone. His species had conquered their homeworld's apex predators with nothing but crude weapons and sheer ferocity. "Torvik!" Marcus called out. A collective gasp echoed through the training hall. Even Vex Thul's scaled brow ridge raised slightly in surprise. Torvik was considered one of the most formidable hand-to-hand combatants in their year, possibly in the entire academy. The massive Ursian lumbered forward, his clawed paws leaving small indentations in the metal floor. "You sure about this, little human?" he rumbled in accented Standard Galactic. "I don't want to hurt you too badly." "I'm sure," Marcus replied, taking his position at one end of the 20-meter arena. The other cadets pressed closer to the arena's edge, their excitement palpable. This wasn't going to be a demonstration of human combat prowess. This was going to be a lesson in why humans needed to stick to support roles and technical positions. Vex Thul moved to the center of the arena, his authority commanding immediate silence. Standard Academy rules apply. Combat continues until one opponent yields, is incapacitated, or I call a halt. Medical team is standing by. Marcus could see the medical staff positioning their equipment near the arena's edge. Dr. Helen Vara, the Academy's chief medical officer, was already preparing trauma stabilizers. Clearly, everyone expected this to be over quickly and messily. "Fighters, take your positions," Vex Thul commanded. Torvik crouched into a traditional Ursian combat stance, his massive frame low to the ground, arms spread wide to maximize his reach. His claws extended from their sheaths with a metallic whisper, each one capable of tearing through light armor. Marcus stood relaxed, feet shoulder-width apart, hands hanging loosely at his sides. To the untrained eye, he looked completely unprepared for combat. Several alien cadets exchanged worried glances, wondering if the human truly understood what he was facing. "The human shows no defensive posture," observed Captain Zelnara, one of the Academy's Vorthak instructors, to her colleagues in the observation deck above. "Either supreme confidence or complete ignorance." "Given human performance records, I suspect the latter," replied Commander Sekvar, his Krathari mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. In the arena below, tension mounted. Torvik's breathing deepened, each exhale visible as small puffs of vapor in the controlled atmosphere. His yellow eyes fixed on Marcus with predatory intensity. The Ursian way of combat was straightforward: overwhelm opponents with size, strength, and ferocity. Marcus remained motionless, his brown eyes calm and focused. He appeared to be studying Torvik, but his gaze seemed distant, as if calculating something beyond the immediate threat. "This demonstration will illustrate the importance of understanding one's limitations," Vex Thul announced to the gathered cadets. "A warrior must know when to engage, and when tactical withdrawal is the wiser course." Several cadets nodded sagely. This was obviously going to be a lesson about human fragility and the importance of knowing one's place in the galactic hierarchy. "Begin!" Vex Thul's command echoed through the training hall. Torvik exploded forward with surprising speed for his massive frame. His charge would have been devastating to most opponents, designed to close distance quickly and bring his superior size and strength to bear. His claws gleamed under the training hall's lights as he raised both arms for a crushing blow. The Ursian had covered half the distance to Marcus in less than a second. Spectators held their breath, waiting for the inevitable impact. Some of the more sensitive species had already looked away, unable to watch what they assumed would be a brutal mauling. Marcus didn't move. He stood perfectly still as 350 kilograms of charging Ursian warrior bore down on him, claws extended, roaring a battle cry that shook the reinforced walls of the training facility. Time seemed to slow as Torvik's massive form hurtled toward Marcus. The Ursian's claws caught the light as they descended in a devastating arc that would have shattered most opponents' defenses. His battle roar echoed through the training hall, a primal sound that spoke of countless generations of apex predators. Marcus moved. It wasn't the desperate dodge that everyone expected. It wasn't even a conventional defensive maneuver that any of the instructors would have recognized. Marcus shifted his weight slightly, stepped forward and to the side in one fluid motion, and simply wasn't where Torvik's attack was aimed anymore. The massive Ursian's momentum carried him past Marcus, his claws whistling through empty air. Confusion flashed across his ursine features as his target vanished from where he'd expected to find soft human flesh to tear. But Marcus wasn't finished moving. As Torvik stumbled past, thrown off balance by the unexpected miss, Marcus's right hand shot out. His fingers pressed against specific points along the Ursian's thick neck, finding nerve clusters with surgical precision. His left hand simultaneously struck 2 pressure points along Torvik's spine, hitting locations that most alien medical texts claimed didn't exist in Ursian physiology. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Torvik's roar cut off mid-sound as his nervous system received conflicting signals from the human's precise strikes. His massive legs buckled as motor control failed. The 350-kilogram warrior collapsed to the arena floor with a thunderous crash that shook the reinforced platform. Complete silence filled the training hall. Marcus stood over the fallen Ursian, his breathing barely elevated, his stance still relaxed. He looked down at Torvik with what might have been concern rather than triumph. "Instructor Vex Thule," Marcus called out calmly. "Torvik needs medical attention. The nerve disruption will wear off in approximately 4 minutes, but he should be checked for any complications." Dr. Helnvara rushed onto the arena floor, her scanning equipment already active. The readings that appeared on her medical tricorder made her antenna-like sensory organs twitch in disbelief. "Precise neural disruption," she announced to the stunned audience. "No permanent damage. No tissue trauma. The pressure points were targeted with mathematical precision." Vex Thule approached the arena slowly, his predatory grace replaced by something resembling caution. His yellow eyes studied Marcus with new intensity, as if seeing the human for the first time. "Explain what just occurred, Cadet Chen," the instructor demanded. Marcus helped the medical team position Torvik more comfortably as sensation began returning to the Ursian's extremities. "Human combat doctrine isn't based on overwhelming physical superiority," he explained matter-of-factly. "We developed techniques that exploit the weaknesses inherent in stronger opponents." "Impossible," muttered Commander Sekvar from the observation deck. His 4 Krathari arms gestured dismissively. "Our medical databases contain complete neurological maps of every known species. Those pressure points don't exist in Ursian anatomy." "With respect, Commander," Marcus replied, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's acoustics, "your databases are incomplete. Humans have been studying alien physiology since first contact. We've identified neural pathways and pressure points that most species don't even realize they possess." Captain Zelnara's serpentine head tilted thoughtfully. "You're suggesting that humans have been conducting unauthorized biological research on allied species?" "Not unauthorized," Marcus corrected. "Open source. Every bit of information we used came from publicly available medical journals, academy training materials, and cultural exchange programs. We just analyzed the data differently." The implications of his words began to sink in among the gathered aliens. Humans didn't just study their own physiology and combat techniques. They studied everyone else's, looking for patterns and vulnerabilities that the original species hadn't even considered. Torvik groaned as feeling returned to his limbs. The massive Ursian slowly pushed himself to a sitting position with the medical team's assistance. "What hit me?" he rumbled, shaking his great head to clear the lingering effects. "2 fingers and a thumb," Marcus replied quietly. "I'm sorry about that. I could have used less force, but I wasn't sure if lighter pressure would work effectively on Ursian nerve clusters." The casual nature of Marcus's apology sent a chill through the assembled cadets. He dropped one of the Academy's most formidable warriors with 2 fingers and a thumb, and he was apologizing for using too much force. "The entire engagement lasted 2 seconds, observed Instructor Vex Thule, checking his chronometer. "From initial contact to Torvik's incapacitation. 2 seconds. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the crowd. In most alien combat traditions, 2 seconds was barely enough time to properly assess an opponent's stance, much less defeat them completely. "How many other species' weaknesses have humans cataloged?" asked Cadet Seelin, her Vorthak hood flaring nervously. Marcus considered the question carefully. "All of them," he answered honestly. "Every species in the Galactic Council, every ally, every potential threat. It's basic survival doctrine. Humans don't have natural weapons or armor, so we had to develop other advantages." The training hall fell silent again as the implications became clear. While other species had focused on perfecting their natural abilities, humans had been quietly studying everyone else's vulnerabilities. Bloom of Morning Frost, the Xantharian cadet, shifted nervously on her root legs. "Even peaceful species like mine?" "Especially peaceful species," Marcus replied, though his tone remained respectful. "Your toxic spores are incredibly effective, but they require conscious activation and proper positioning. Interrupt the neural pathway that controls spore release, and the threat is neutralized." The delicate Xantharian's flower-like head drooped slightly. Her species' primary defense mechanism, which had kept them safe for millennia, apparently had a simple countermeasure that humans had identified and mastered. Dr. Helnvara finished her examination of Torvik and helped the large Ursian to his feet. "No lasting damage," she announced. "The pressure point attacks were precisely calibrated to cause temporary incapacitation without permanent harm." "That level of precision suggests extensive practice," observed Instructor Vex Thule. "Where did you acquire this training, Cadet Chen?" "Standard human military doctrine," Marcus replied. "Every human child learns basic anatomy of allied species by age 12. Pressure point techniques are taught in our equivalent of your primary education. What you just saw wasn't advanced training. It was elementary school curriculum. The revelation hit the alien cadets like a physical blow. What they had just witnessed wasn't the result of specialized military training or years of dedicated study. It was something that human children learned alongside basic mathematics and language skills." Commander Sekvar descended from the observation deck, his Krathari features set in grim lines. "Are you saying that every human civilian possesses the knowledge to incapacitate trained military personnel from any species?" "Most humans," Marcus confirmed, "though civilians usually focus on defensive applications rather than offensive techniques. The goal is escape and survival, not domination." Torvik tested his balance carefully, rolling his massive shoulders to ensure full mobility had returned. "I never even saw you move," he admitted grudgingly. "One moment I was charging. The next I was on the ground. Human reflexes aren't particularly fast compared to most species," Marcus explained, "but we've learned to move efficiently rather than quickly. Every motion serves multiple purposes. While you were focused on your attack, I was already positioning for the counter." The concept was alien to most of the assembled cadets. Their species had evolved to rely on superior physical attributes. The idea of turning an opponent's strength against them, of using efficiency over power, was fundamentally foreign to their way of thinking. Cadet Zektar, the 4-armed Krathari, stepped forward with obvious reluctance. "Could you demonstrate the technique you would use against my species?" Marcus studied the insectoid alien's chitinous exoskeleton and multiple appendages. "Your carapace provides excellent protection against blunt force trauma," he observed. "But chitin has specific stress fracture points. Apply pressure at the correct angle and sequence, and the natural armor becomes a liability rather than an advantage." He gestured to points along Zektar's thorax and limb joints. 3 strikes here, here, and here would create cascading structural failures. Your exoskeleton would essentially immobilize you while your nervous system remained fully functional. Zektar's mandibles clicked nervously as he examined the locations Marcus had indicated. The spots appeared completely random to his understanding of Krathari anatomy, but the human's confidence was unsettling. "This is concerning intelligence," Instructor Vex Thule stated bluntly. "If human civilians possess this knowledge, what capabilities do human military specialists possess?" Marcus considered Instructor Vex Thule's question carefully. The massive Draknari's yellow eyes held a mixture of curiosity and what might have been concern. Around the training hall, alien cadets waited with obvious tension for his response. "Human military specialists don't focus on individual combat techniques," Marcus finally answered. "We focus on systems analysis and coordinated response. While I can incapacitate one opponent quickly, a human military unit can disable entire enemy formations before they realize they're under attack." The casual way he delivered this information made it somehow more chilling than if he'd boasted or threatened. Captain Zelnara's serpentine form coiled tighter as she processed the implications. "Elaborate," commanded Commander Sekvar. Marcus glanced around the assembled cadets, noting their species and probable tactical doctrines. Take this group as an example. 43 cadets representing 17 different species. Each has trained to maximize their natural advantages. Krathari rely on multi-limb coordination and armored charges. Vorthak use speed and precision strikes. Draknari depend on overwhelming physical power. He paused, allowing the aliens to consider their own tactical preferences. A human military assessment would identify this as a chaotic melee scenario where each individual fights according to their species' instincts. No coordination, no unified strategy, just 43 separate combat styles competing for dominance. "And how would humans exploit this?" asked Dr. Helen Vara, her medical curiosity apparently extending to tactical scenarios. "Environmental manipulation," Marcus replied simply. "Humans don't fight opponents where they're strong. We change the conditions to make their strengths irrelevant." To demonstrate, he moved to one of the training hall's control panels. With practiced ease, he adjusted the environmental settings. The lights dimmed to minimal levels, simulating deep space conditions or cave systems. The artificial gravity reduced to 60% of standard, disrupting most species' natural movement patterns. "Krathari depend on stable footing for their 4-limb combat style," Marcus explained, as several of the insectoid aliens struggled with the altered gravity. "Reduce gravity, and their coordination suffers dramatically." He touched another control, and the air temperature dropped by 15 degrees. "Vorthak reflexes slow in cold conditions. Not enough to affect them severely, but enough to reduce their primary advantage." A final adjustment increased the humidity and introduced trace amounts of sedative pollen into the air. Xantharian spore attacks become useless in high-humidity environments. Their natural toxins bind with water molecules and lose potency. Within moments, the environmental changes had neutralized the primary advantages of 3 major species groups without Marcus needing to engage them physically. "This is psychological warfare," accused Torvik, though his voice held grudging respect rather than condemnation. "This is asymmetric warfare," Marcus corrected. "Humans learned early that we couldn't match other species in direct physical confrontation. So we developed alternatives." Instructor Vex Thule reset the environmental controls to standard settings, but his expression remained troubled. "Your species has been members of the Galactic Council for less than 50 standard years. How did you develop such comprehensive tactical knowledge in such a short time?" "We didn't develop it after joining the Council," Marcus answered. "We developed it before we knew other species existed. Human history is essentially a catalog of techniques for defeating physically superior opponents." He gestured toward a wall display that showed various alien species in their natural habitats. Every predator on Earth was stronger, faster, or more naturally armed than humans. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more willing to use unconventional tactics. Earth predators aren't sentient, pointed out Cadet Seelin. They can't adapt their tactics or develop countermeasures. True, Marcus agreed. But humans also spent thousands of years fighting each other. Every human culture developed methods to defeat every other human culture. We learned to overcome opponents who were just as intelligent as we were, who could adapt and counter our strategies in real time. The implications of this revelation settled over the alien cadets like a heavy blanket. While their species had evolved to rely on natural advantages, humans had spent millennia perfecting the art of overcoming any advantage through intelligence, preparation, and sheer bloody-minded persistence. Commander Sekvar approached the arena, his forearms held in a gesture that his species used to indicate deep thought. You're suggesting that human military doctrine is based on defeating equals rather than dominating inferiors. Not just equals, Marcus clarified. Superiors. Human culture assumes that any opponent we face will be stronger, faster, better armed, and possibly more intelligent than we are. Our entire strategic framework is built around overcoming impossible odds. Dr. Helnvara consulted her medical tricorder, checking the biometric readings from the various species present. The stress indicators are remarkable, she observed. Simply discussing human tactical capabilities is triggering fight-or-flight responses in multiple species. Because you're all realizing the same thing, Marcus said quietly. Every advantage you think you have, humans have already figured out how to counter. We've been preparing for this since before we knew you existed. Bloom of Morning Frost's delicate voice carried a tremor of fear. How many human weaknesses have you shared with the Council? All of them, Marcus answered immediately. Complete biological data, psychological profiles, cultural assessments, tactical doctrines, everything. It's all in the public databases. The honesty of his response was somehow more unsettling than deception would have been. Zektar's mandibles clicked in agitation as he processed this information. Why would your species reveal such critical intelligence? Marcus smiled for the first time since the demonstration began, though the expression didn't reach his eyes. Because knowing our weaknesses doesn't help you exploit them. Human tactical doctrine accounts for enemies who know exactly what we're planning to do. We've been fighting opponents who could read our minds, predict our movements, and counter our strategies for our entire evolutionary history. Other humans, breathed Captain Zelnara in sudden understanding. Other humans, Marcus confirmed. Every human military leader studies the tactics of every other human military leader throughout history. We know exactly how humans think, how humans fight, how humans respond to every possible scenario. If you want to defeat humans, you have to be better at being human than humans are. The training hall had become so quiet that the hum of life support systems seemed unnaturally loud. Instructor Vex Thule moved to stand directly in front of Marcus, his massive frame casting the human in shadow. What you're describing isn't military doctrine, the Draknari said slowly. It's a fundamental worldview. Your entire species approaches existence as an ongoing conflict against superior opposition. Not conflict, Marcus corrected gently. Challenge. Humans don't seek war, but we assume that any peace is temporary. We prepare for scenarios we hope will never occur, because unpreparedness means extinction. Torvik had been listening quietly, massaging his neck where Marcus's pressure point attack had temporarily paralyzed him. So when you disabled me in 2 seconds, that wasn't even a particularly impressive display by human standards. It was adequate, Marcus replied diplomatically. A human special forces operator would have had multiple backup plans ready if the initial technique failed. and they probably would have positioned themselves to engage the next three closest threats simultaneously. The casual mention of engaging multiple opponents at once sent another wave of unease through the assembled aliens. They were beginning to understand that their assumptions about human military capabilities had been catastrophically wrong. Dr. Helnvara approached Marcus with her medical scanner active. "May I take some readings? I'm curious about the physiological adaptations that allow such precise motor control." Marcus nodded consent, standing still while the Zentaurian physician conducted her examination. The readings that appeared on her equipment drew confused chirps from her translator unit. "Remarkable," she murmured. "Your muscle fiber density is within normal human parameters, but the neural pathway efficiency is extraordinary. Your nervous system processes tactical information at nearly telepathic speeds." "Standard human military enhancement," Marcus explained. "Basic conditioning that every recruit receives. Improved reaction time, enhanced pattern recognition, increased situational awareness. Nothing exotic, just optimization of existing biological systems." Commander Sekvar's four hands clenched into fists as the implications became clear. "Every human soldier receives this enhancement. Every human in any position that might involve conflict," Marcus confirmed. "Military, law enforcement, emergency response, even many civilian occupations. We've learned that preparation prevents catastrophe." Instructor Vex Thule stepped back from Marcus, his predatory instincts apparently warning him that he was standing too close to a potential threat. "This demonstration has been educational," he announced to the gathered cadets. "But I believe we should conclude today's training session." As the alien cadets began filing out of the training hall, their conversations were subdued and worried. Marcus remained behind to help Dr. Helnvara complete her examination of Torvik, ensuring that the Ursian had suffered no lasting effects from the pressure point attack. "Cadet Chen," Instructor Vex Thule called as Marcus prepared to leave. "Yes, sir?" "Tomorrow, we'll be covering advanced tactical scenarios," the Draknari said carefully. "I think it would be beneficial if you demonstrated some of these human alternative strategies you mentioned." Marcus nodded respectfully. "Of course, sir." "Should I prepare for multiple opponent scenarios?" The instructor's yellow eyes narrowed slightly. "How many opponents can you handle simultaneously?" Marcus considered the question seriously. "Depends on their species, training level, and environmental conditions. In ideal circumstances, probably 8 to 12 opponents before I'd need to start using lethal force." The casual mention of lethal capabilities, delivered in the same tone he might use to discuss the weather, sent a final chill through the training hall. Instructor Vex Thule realized that today's demonstration had answered one question while raising dozens of others. As Marcus left the training facility, he passed a group of alien cadets engaged in intense discussion. Their translator units carried fragments of their conversation, terms like threat assessment and species reclassification echoing in the corridor. Marcus sighed quietly to himself. He'd hoped to get through his academy training without revealing too much about human capabilities. But the instructor had asked for a demonstration, and humans were nothing if not thorough when it came to education. Tomorrow's advanced tactics class was going to be very interesting indeed.